In this video, we're going to look at the all-new mirror mode feature that we've added into version 9. And we're going to show you how you can apply mirror mode in our projects. Symmetry creates balance, and therefore balance creates order and harmony, which means we have aesthetically pleasing results. And symmetry can be found anywhere. You can find mirror and rotational symmetry in nature, architecture, animals, designs, all sorts, the list goes on. And we build in symmetry without even realising it because it looks pleasing to the eye. And I was looking on the Vectric gallery page on the website and found lots of examples of projects that you, the Vectric customer, has made that has mirrored symmetry involved. So we're already doing it, and it's not nothing new, but what is new is that with 9, mirroring is much easier, it's quicker, and it's a lot more fun to play with when creating mirrored compositions using the new mirror mode. And if you're into your clipart, you can make lots of new clipart super quick using the mirror mode. So we're just going to go over some ground rules first, and then we'll look at playing with the mirror mode to create some cool stuff. And so mirror mode only applies to components. We cannot use the mirror mode on 2D data. It's purely a 3D feature. And within mirror mode there are 8 different mirror modes, and this allows us to create mirrored compositions using virtual mirrors that are placed in either the vertical center of the job or the horizontal center of the job, whereby we can mirror from left to right. We can also mirror right to left. We can mirror top to bottom, and we can also mirror bottom to top. And we can also place both virtual mirrors into our job at the same time, whereby we can mirror by quadrant. For example, I have a component that is positioned in the top left hand side of our job, and if I set the mirror mode to mirror by top left quadrant, when I apply that mirror mode, it will just mirror that over both the vertical and the horizontal mirror lines. And we'll get a part that looks like this. Okay, in mirror mode, as I said, we can only mirror components, and the result of the mirror mode is what we see in the composite model. We don't actually create any new components in our component tree, neither do we create any new 2D grayscale components within our 2D view. And the software will only mirror components within the area being mirrored. For example, take this image at the top here. We have a component that is in a mirror mode where it's mirroring by the top left quadrant. We can see that part of that component overlaps. The top left quadrant goes over to the right, bottom right and bottom left, but the result of what we see in the 3D view is that it only mirrors anything within that quadrant, so we won't see that overlap like we can see in the 2D view here in our 3D view. We're going to start by looking at an applique example. And you can find mirroring in lots of applique and onlays, which are used to create visual interest to what would be a rather dull flat space. For instance, onlays and appliques are used to decorate fireplace mantles, stove hoods, cabinet doors, headers, all sorts of things to provide more aesthetic pleasure. And mirror mode is a super quick way to create these beautiful compositions. So let's have a go at creating our own applique example in VCarve. And using the free clipart that comes with VCarve, we're going to pull out some key parts, so 4 different pieces of clipart. We're going to look at assembling them within various mirror modes to create a finished unique composition that we could then simply apply to something like a cabinet door. So let's go into VCarve and we'll look at recreating this. So let's go and create a new file, Working with a single-sided job, we'll have a width of 10 inches, height of 6 inches, material thickness is going to be ½ inch. Z0ing off the material surface, XY position in the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to work with a very high model and resolution here, and then we could go ahead and press OK. So let's come over to tile our windows horizontally, and then we'll go into the modeling tab, and this is where we can access the mirror mode. Okay, so the mirror mode is actually a property of the level itself. So if we right click on the level, you'll see under the combine mode we have mirror mode, where we can mirror left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top. So this is all using just one mirror type, and then we can input 2 mirror types where we mirror by quadrant, and that will mirror everything in all 4 quadrants of your job. Okay, so we'll just start by looking at right to left. And the first thing that we need to do is bring in clipart so we can see how the mirror mode works. So if we go into the clipart tab, and we'll look at using the free clipart that comes with the software to create our own decorative applique. So in there I'm just going to go straight to the decorative section of the clipart tab, and this is where we'll find ornate decorative flourish type clipart. It's worth pointing out here, as I scroll through the decorative section of the clipart folder, you'll notice that a lot of the clipart is actually symmetrical, and again this goes back to what we spoke about in the introduction, where we find symmetry pleasing to the eye in design. So let's look for a piece of clipart that isn't symmetrical, and we'll look at making it symmetrical using the mirror mode. Let's take Flourish 80B for example. I'm going to double click that to bring that into our job. And if we go into our modeling tab, you can see that we only have one component in our component tree. We only have one component grayscale, and what we're seeing in the 3D view is the actual composite model, and this is all to do with the mirror mode being an actual property of the level itself, and the result of that is what we see here in the composite model. You'll notice if I move this over to the left hand side, we don't see anything in the 3D view, and that's because our mirror mode is currently set to mirror from right to left. So if there's nothing in the right hand side, it has nothing to mirror with, and so nothing will be displayed here in the 3D view. And the moment that we move that over to the right hand side, we'll see the mirrored version of that there in the 3D view, and anything that goes past the center vertical line, for instance this area here, will not be displayed in the 3D view. We can see the shadow of it, but the area that overlaps past that line will not be mirrored. We only mirror everything that is on the right hand side, because that's what we've set our mirror mode to. So let's just have a go at arranging this. So we're just going to make that a little bit smaller. I'm just going to bring that down a little. And now I think I'm going to bring in another piece of clipart. So let's go into our clipart tab. I like the look of this, so let's double click on that to bring that in. Okay, you can see straight away the effect of the mirror mode here in the 3D view. And you could just shrink that down, and might want to do that again. And just bring that up a little, maybe just bring that down. And so you can see here that with every move I'm constantly getting an update here in the 3D view, and we're getting some really interesting looking results here. Okay, so that's not too bad. Let's have a look at a different mirror mode. So we'll go into the modeling tab. Now to bring a new piece of clipart in where we place it into a different mirror mode, we need to insert a new level. So to do that, we're going to right click on level 1, insert a new level, right click on level 2, and then here we'll just change the combine mode to merge so it blends in with our current composite model, and then we'll right click on the level into mirror mode, and here let's take a look at mirroring the top left quadrant. So let's go back into the clipart tab, and we'll just browse through the clipart. Okay, I like this, so let's just double click to bring that in, and then we'll just move it over to the top left quadrant. So you can see with that in position in the top left hand corner of my job, I have a mirrored version over to the right, the bottom and the bottom left. Okay, and again if I move that over, you'll see that only the area within that top left quadrant is being mirrored over. And you can see that just with every little move that I'm getting some really interesting results here in the 3D view. And again, that's what makes this tool so much fun to play with. Okay, so I'll just tweak that, I'll just rotate it, maybe bring that up a little. Again, rotate that again, might want to make that a little bit smaller. So I'm just constantly playing with the part and then seeing the effect of what we've got here in the actual 3D view at the bottom there. Again, let's bring that down. I want to take this and just nudge it up a little, maybe even stretch it. So again, with every tweak and stretch and rotate that I make to the component, we're constantly seeing the result of it there in the 3D view as part of its mirrored composition. I'm just going to bring that up just a little, and then we'll take this part. I'm just going to move that up also. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up there, and I might just want to rotate it ever so slightly. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Okay, so you're starting to see we've got some real interesting results here. So here, what we could do is think about the actual component heights. A lot of our components are just blending into each other. So if we maximise the 3D view, we can see that we've got this area being obscured by certain components. So we might want to take that, go into the properties here. Could look at adding in a very small base height, so make that 0.1, just so we're lifting that up in front. And so now the flourish that we've mirrored up from the top left quadrant is now sat proudly, or well, discreetly in the background. Okay, let's just bring in one final piece of clip art. We're going to look at just having a standalone piece that's just going to sit in the center area here just to fill that gap. So let's just close that down. We need to go into the modeling tab. Now I want to bring in one piece of clip art that will not be mirrored, so we need to insert a new level. So insert new level, change the combine mode of that to merge, and then we're just going to leave that. We're not going to put in a mirror mode, so we'll make sure it's at its default of no mirroring. Back to our clip art tab, let's have a look for a standalone piece of clip art. Like the look of this scallop shell, so we'll double click that to bring that in place, and then we'll just shrink that down. I'm going to use the shortcut keyboard key, which is V, so V for Victor, or V in this case to flip that vertical, and you'll see that that's flipped that over. We're just going to bring that down, and then I might just want to shrink that down a little. And then we could look at adding in another little bit of a base height just to make that more prominent. Spacebar to enter that in, and we can see our finished part there. And so at this stage we've got our finished applique. And so we could cut this as a standalone model. And so to do that we could simply, let's just go and tile our windows, and then we'll just switch over to the Toolpath tab. We'll set our materials, make that within the middle somewhere, press OK, and then what you do is you go into one of your 3D toolpaths and then use the model boundary option, and then enter all your other options within the form, calculate that, and what it will do is it will pick up the model boundary from the composite model and apply that finished toolpath to it. And so you could just preview that toolpath and see how it looks. If you're wanting to apply a profile pass to actually cut the part out, you can do that by simply coming over to Drawing tab. Into the Modelling tab, we just want to select all of the components here, so Shift Select, and then use this option here to create a vector boundary around the selected components, and you'll see it will create that boundary around your composite model, in which case we could then simply use that vector as part of the profile pass to cut that out. Let's put in a cut depth of the material thickness, and we'll just go some of the basics in here, calculate that, and you'll see that it will cut that out for you. Let's just maximise the 3D view there. And so purely for demonstration purposes, I've only just ran a 3D finish just to show you the finished part and how the software takes the composite model, not any components or grayscales that you have in the 2D view, takes the composite model and uses that as a basis to calculate your 3D toolpaths. So if we was to actually cut this, I'd obviously run a roughing pass first, a 3D finishing pass, probably with a much finer tool to get in at all of the detail there. But this is just an exercise just to show you how to actually assemble clipart within the mirror mode to create something like an applique or an onlay that we've got here. Okay, so at this stage we're just going to go and save this file so that you have access to it. So we'll go to File, Save As. So we'll call this one Applique, and you can access that from the project folder. So now that we've looked at a quick and easy example of the mirror mode being used in VCarve, we're going to look at another example that goes a step further using Aspire. We're going to start by working with a very basic tile, and ultimately we're going to look at decorating the tile using clipart and various mirror modes to create different compositions. We'll also look at the model editing tools that we have available to us in Aspire. So we're looking at the cropping tool and also how we can distort components for better fit within our tile. And then we'll look at how we can create a component from a visible model to save out our compositions as .3D clip files that we can add to our own clipart library. And so ultimately the whole point of the next example is to show you how quickly and easily it is using mirror mode in Aspire to create different variations on a basic tile. So let's jump into Aspire and we'll show you how to create all of these different compositions. So let's go and open an existing file. So from the project folder we're going to open the mirror tile, press open, and here is a file that I've prepared earlier. So I'm just going to tile the windows so we can see both a 2D and a 3D view into the modeling tab. You'll see that I've already created some components. I've got a border with a flat plane underneath. We've got a circular border in the centre, and then we've got a centerpiece. So the idea here is we're now going to decorate inside the circle and in each of the corners to create different tiles. So let's just minimize that tile, and then we're going to right click on that tile and we're going to insert a new level. I'm going to right click, we're going to rename this level, and we're going to call this level Inner Circle. That's going to represent everything within this circle here. We'll set the combine mode of that to merge so that it blends in with our current composite model, and then we can now alter the mirror mode. So we'll go to the mirror mode and we can choose how we want to mirror this. In this case I'd like to go with the top left quadrant here. So let's go to the clipart tab and we're going to go into the decorative section. So you can see with Aspire we have a lot more clipart available to us. I've got more choice this time. I'm just going to search for something that I feel would sit nicely within our inner circle. So like the look of this, let's just double click on that. That'll bring that into the center of our job, and then if we just shrink that down, take a look at what we have there. Okay, and then if we just rotate it, so around 45 degrees, and we can see the result of that there in the 3D view. Okay, so that looks nice. I really like what we've got there. Very basic. Let's go into the modeling tab. I want to save this out as a piece of individual clipart in its own right. So to do that, I'm going to right click on the level. I'm going to insert a new level. I'm going to rename this level. We're going to call this one Variants. And I'm going to use this option here to create a component from a visible model. And if we click on that, and then if I just undraw these levels, you'll see that I just have one piece of clipart that is the actual tile itself. And then what I could do is I could rename this. We'll just call this one Tile 1. And then here I'm going to right click on that tile, use this option here to export it as a piece of 3D clipart. So here I'm just going to call that Tile 1, press save, and I've always got access to that for the future use. Perfect, I like that. So let's just undraw that component. We're going to undraw that level. We're going to go back to our basic tile and the inner circle level and look at maybe bringing in more clipart or tweaking this even more. So let's just take that flourish, we're just going to increase that by pulling on the corner handle, holding down shift just to scale that in proportion, click to accept that, and we can see how that part looks. Now what I'd like to do is look at bringing in clipart that's going to sit in the corner, and I'd like to also mirror that by quadrant. Now I could keep it in the inner circle level, however what I'd like to do is just keep my parts super organised. I'm going to create a new level that has the exact same mirror mode as the inner circle, but we're just going to call this one corner so that I know we're just focusing on this area here. And this will help me in future use if I'm wanting to swap in and out clipart for the various sections within our tile. So right click on inner circle level, insert a new level, right click on level 1, rename that level, we're going to call this one corner, right click on that level, set the combine mode to merge, and then I do a final right click on the level, put the mirror mode to the top left quadrant. So let's go back to our clipart tab. I'm just going to look through the clipart till I find something I like the look of that will sit nicely in this corner. I'm going to take this one here, I'm going to double click that, and then I'm just going to rotate it around, say 45 degrees. So something like that. And then I'm just going to position that over to the corner. And straight away I can see we've got some interesting results there. Okay, so I like what we've got there. I could save that out if I wanted to. In this case I'm not going to, I'm just going to tweak at this until I've got something that I like the look of in terms of the actual overall tiled composition. Now, in this case, I like this area here. I'm not interested in anything else. So we're going to look at cropping the components. I'm just left with the part that sits in the corner here. So to do that, let's go into the drawing tab. I'm going to go into the polyline mode, and I'm just going to zoom in on the area that I want to crop. I'm just going to come up here and roughly sketch in the area that I want to keep. Tab on the keyboard, and that will close the vector for us. That doesn't look too bad, so what I could do is take that component, shift and select the vector into the modelling tab, clear everything outside of that vector, and you can see that we're just left with the area that I wanted. I'm going to take that vector, I'm just going to delete it. I don't need that anymore, and press F to fit that to the screen. And I like what we've got here also, so what I might want to do is just switch on my variance level, make that the active level by selecting it, and then use this option here to create a component from a visible model, and that will create a brand new component for me based on what we had there in the composite model. So I'm going to call this one tile 2. And I'm going to right click, export that out as a piece of 3D clipart, so I can add it to my own clipart library, and we'll call that one tile 2, press save, and that's saved for me. Excellent. Let's just switch that off, and we'll switch the variance level off. And so now what I'd like to do is introduce something that's going to sit within the inner circle that sort of flows around the top area here, and I'd like that to be mirrored to the bottom. So let's set up a new level. So I'm going to right click on the corner level, insert a new level, and rename that one. I'm going to call this one Inner Circle 2. Set the combine mode of this to merge, and then we're going to set the mirror mode of this top to bottom. Let's go into the clipart tab, and we'll look for something that would be suited to sit within our circle there. So we want to look for something that's fairly rounded, and we'll just keep looking through. Okay, so I like what we've got there, the swag 2, double click that, and then I'm just going to move that up, hit V on the keyboard to flip that vertically, and then I'm just going to shrink that down, and I might want to bring that up a little. At this point I may want to take that flourish in the centre and just hold down shift, drag on the corner just to bring that down. Okay, and then we'll just make that a little bit bigger. That's too big. So again, we'll put it back into transform mode, hold down shift, and then we'll just bring that down like so. Okay, that looks good. Now what I'd like to do is have something that will sit in on the left hand side and be mirrored over to the right. So let's go into the modelling tab, and again we're going to right click to create a new level, right click on the level to rename that, and we're going to call this one Inner Circle 3, and then we're going to right click, set the combine mode of that to merge, and then let's have a look at the mirror mode. We'll go from left to right this time. Let's go back into the clipart tab, and I'm just going to locate something that I feel would sit nicely on the left hand side there. Okay, I like the look of this flower, so we'll just double click on the flower there, and we'll just shrink that down, so hold shift, and then I'm just going to simply rotate that around like so, and then move that over to the left hand side. Again, let's just rotate it. Okay, and already that's looking pretty good. And so again, I'm going to save out that tile, so we'll switch on the variance level, make that the active level, and then create a component from the visible model, so it creates a component based on what we can see there in the 3D view. We'll call this one tile 3, right click on tile 3, export that out as a piece of 3D clip art, call that tile 3, press save, and that's now added to my folder. Let's just uncheck the visibility tile 3 and undraw the variance level. Now what I'd like to do is look at doing some swap-ins. For example, let's just undraw this flower component. We're also going to undraw the swag there. I'm going to take a look at the flourish in the inner circle. I'm going to undraw that, and I'd like to replace that with a different piece of clip art. So I'll make the inner circle level the active level, and then I'm just going to browse through my clip art. Let's take a look at this for example, double click on that, and then we'll just size that down like so, and then we'll just rotate it so it's already in a level where the mirror mode is set to mirror the top left quadrant, and then we can see the result of that there. Okay, so again, I like this tile here, so let's switch on the variance level, make it active, and then create a component from the visible, rename that, call that one tile 4, and then we'll right click on the tile and export that out as a piece of 3D clip art, call that tile 4, and there it is saved for us. Just undraw that, we're going to go back to this area here. Okay, so with that in place, what I would like to do is look at bringing in another piece of clip art that's going to go around the inner circle. So this time I'm just going to keep it within this level because I'd like to have our new component mirrored by quadrant. So we're going to go into the clip art tab, and then we're just going to browse through the clip art until I find a piece that I think would be usable. Okay, so I'll take this flourish 142D, double click that in place, and then we'll just look at shrinking that down. And then what we can do is we can just simply look at moving that up to the top of the circle. So I'm just going to take that, move it up like so. And if we just go into our modelling tab, what I would like to do is add a bit of curvature to the piece of clip art. You can see it's quite straight, it's quite horizontal. I just want to give it a little bit of roundness so that it sits nicely within the circle shape. So here we could look at distorting that component. So let's distort it. So I'm going to apply a bounding box around that component, and then just like in node edit mode, I'm going to right click on this span here, say to Bezier, right click here to Bezier, and I'm going to take all of those handles by box selecting those, pulling them up, and you can see that we're creating some curvature there. So there we go, we can bring that up again, and I might want to just bring that over also, and then we could just left click just to stop that distortion there, then right click so I can just select it and then move it around. Okay, so you can see that there. Then what I could do is click on the center of the object to bring this target out. Now that target is the rotation center. I'm just going to put that in the center of our job so that then when I move that around we can rotate it about this center point here. Okay, I'm just going to close out for a second. I'm going to set the combine mode of this component so it's merging with everything else. And if I wanted to, I could just make that a little bit smaller, and I could just bring that in closer together if I wanted. And if I just click into the space here, you can see we've got a real nice piece of clip art there in its own right. So again, I'm going to switch on that variance level, create a component from visible. Okay, it's just been added to the inner circle level, as that is the active level. What I should have done is clicked on the variance level and it would have automatically added to this level. Not a problem, we can move it around, so we'll call that one tile 5, and again let's go ahead and export that out as a piece of 3D clip art, tile 5, save, and draw the visibility of the component and the level, and we'll go back to the component within the inner circle. So I'm going to take that, just going to move that out, and then I might just shrink that in over here, and I might just shrink that in over there, and then just look at rotating that a little and then moving that over. Perfect. Again, another tile that I like the composition that we have. So again, let's just save that one out. So this will be the last one now. Make sure the variance level is the active level. Create a component from visible. Rename that. We're going to call that one tile 6. And there we have it. So you can see we've created 6 different tiles within that 5 to 10 minute demonstration. So the mirror mode has lots of capabilities for us to actually create brand new pieces of clip art very easily, very quickly. So let's go and save this file so you've got access to this. So we'll call this one mirror tile fin to say that's complete, and you can access that from your project folder. So for our last short example, we're going to look at how to create a wine coaster using the clip art that is available to us from designandmake.com. Now you already have access to the clip art that is available in the Design and Make project wine bar number 1, as that is provided to you in the CNC projects tutorial. To create the coaster itself, I've purchased the wine bar number 2 project, and here you can see all of the clip art that is included in that project right here. And so using the 2 projects and the mirror mode, we're going to decorate our coaster to create this pretty neat centerpiece spectacle. So let's go straight into VCarve. So we'll go and create a new file. So here we're going to go with 8 by 8 by 1 inch in there, very high modelling resolution. We'll go ahead and press OK. We'll go straight to the modelling tab, right click on the level, rename that level. We're going to call this one base, as this is where the coaster itself is going to sit. Let's go into the clip art tab and go to Design and Make, and you'll see all the projects that I've purchased here. And if I go to wine bar number 1, you'll be familiar with this. This is a project that is actually part of one of the clip art assembly tutorials, and then I've got wine bar number 2, which I actually purchased, and here I have access to the actual coaster. So I'm going to double click on that to bring that into my session, just tile the windows there, and then I'm just going to roughly size this to place. I'm going to take the coaster number 1, double click on that. So this is the part that my wine bottle is actually going to sit inside, and so what I need to do here is size this precisely. So I'm going to use the set selected object size tool, and I'm going to size that to 3.1. So standard wine bottle, the diameter is 3 inches. I'm just going to have that have a little bit of space around it, so I'll make that 3.1, press apply. We can see that size that, still in the centre. Let's go to the modelling tab. We're going to right click and change the combine mode of this to subtract. So it's now recessing inside of the coaster. Okay, just want to add a bit more depth there, so let's go into the properties and we're going to make this 1/2 inch, and we can see that that's now dropped that down. Okay, let's just close that down, put that in C. I'm just going to minimise that base level, and now we're ready to bring in clipart to actually decorate the outside of our coaster. So let's right click on the base level, we're going to insert a new level, and we're going to rename that one, and we're just going to call this one details. And so for this, I'm just going to look at the sort of top left area of the coaster. So we're going to go and put that into a mirror mode, where we're going to mirror the top left quadrant. Let's go into our clipart tab, and within wine bar number 2, I'm going to take grape leaf number 2, double click on that to bring that in, and then we're just going to shrink that down, and I'll just look at rotating that, and then we'll just look at positioning that on the outside of the coaster there. Again, let's just rotate that around and move that down. Perfect, I like what we've got there. Okay, so now we want to bring in some grapes. Okay, so we've got grapes in wine bar number 2. I think I prefer the grapes that we've got in wine bar number 1, so I'm going to double click on the grapes there, and here we're just going to rotate that around. And I'm just going to move this over a little just to make way for the grapes, so move that down, and then roughly put that over here, shrink it right down, and then bring that over there. Okay, and that's not too bad. I just want to bring the leaves down again, and again just look at rotating that ever so slightly. We'll move that down, and so you can see again, the real nice thing about mirror mode is that with every tweak I'm constantly seeing how the overall finished part looks in the 3D view. Okay, at the moment I'm not too worried about the heights, that everything's blending into each other at the moment. I just want to get the overall design put together before we bring everything else in. Okay, so let's have a look at wine bottle number 1 and double click on there, and we're just going to make that smaller, and then we're just going to rotate that around. Okay, I can't see it here because it's not in the top left quadrant. The moment that I move it over there, we should begin to see it. Okay, let's just shrink that down again, rotate it, bring that over like so. Okay, might want to just purely look at the 3D view for this. Okay, let's bring that down ever slightly. Okay, like how that looks. And we could take the wine glass, let's double click on that, and we'll just make that smaller. Press V just to flip that vertical, and then we could move that up. Again, shrink that right down, put that on a little bit of a tilt, move that over, shrink that down again, and then just rotate that like so, and we can see our almost finished part. Okay, so at this stage what I would like to do is just look at altering the heights here. So the grape leaves, I'd like the grape leaves to be proud of the actual leaves. So with that grape, we're going to go into the properties and maybe look at applying a tilt. So we'll go from right to left, and then using the tilt option, we can bring that forward. Okay, so it's now proud of the leaves there. Okay, now with that, we've now obscured the wine glass, so what I might want to do is look at also applying a fade to the grape. So we're just going to fade the opposite side. So we're going to set that, just put that in the Z view there. We'll go to set. This time we're going to go from here to here, and we'll look at increasing that there. Okay, it's not too bad. So now when I go to the wine glass, I could look at maybe giving that a little bit of a base height, and then also maybe look at applying a tiny tilt, so going from the top to the bottom, and then enter in an angle, and we can see it's starting to lift over the actual vine of the grapes there. Perfect. At this point, what I may want to do is just look at increasing the height of the grapes also, just so we're not losing too much at the back area where we've faded it down. So just increase that. Perfect. Okay, then we're going to take that wine bottle, and this time we're just going to look at applying a base height. It's made at 0.1. Okay, so you can see that's very proud of the leaves. It might be a little bit too much height there, so let's just look at decreasing it to see how far we can get away with decreasing the base height before we lose it. Okay, so I'm going to go with 0.5 in here. You can see it's now proud of the leaves there. Let's just take a look at what we have so far. Okay, so I really like what we've got there. I feel like we could maybe include something in the top and bottom areas here, and a little something to just break up the two wine bottles on both the left and right hand side. Let's go into the modelling tab and insert a new level. I'm going to rename that level and just call that one top bottom detail, and we're going to set the mirror mode of that to go from the top to the bottom, and then we'll set the combine mode of this to add, so it's adding on top there. And then we could go into our clipart tab. I'm going to go to wine bar number 2 and take the grape leaf number 3 piece of clipart. So I'm going to shrink that right down, and then we'll move that up to the top here, and we'll just rotate that around, and again we'll just shrink that down, and so it's sat nicely filling that space there like so. We can see it's filled at the bottom also. Go back into the modelling tab, insert a new level, rename the level. I'm going to call this one left right detail, and then right click on the level, into the mirror mode. We're going to mirror from left to right, into the clipart tab, and let's just take this vine for instance, and we'll just shrink that right down, move that over here. Okay, you can see it's very small at the moment, so let's just increase that and then just move that over like so. Let's just rotate that a little, and if we press F on the keyboard we can see the actual result of the mirror there. So let's just take a look at the overall part. Okay, you can see straight away that I do have a lot of vertical height in the grapes, so let's just quickly go over to the modelling tab. I'm going to take the grapes into the properties, and I may just want to lay off the tilt there, so let's just bring that down. Okay, so you can still see at 1 degree we can still see that the grapes are prominent to the leaves, and that's just really reduced the height dramatically there. Okay, so that's good. I might want to look at the wine glass also, so let's just decrease that tilt. Okay, it's not too bad. Okay, and you can see again we've just decreased that ever so slightly also. So there we have our finished coaster. And so this just really shows how you can create complex looking mirrored compositions in a matter of minutes using the various mirror modes that we have available to us. And so there we can see that over the course of this video we've assembled a variety of clip art to create these stunning mirrored compositions with thanks to the mirror mode. And so that completes this tutorial. Thank you for watching.